Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this session. I'd like to thank Indo-Pac Hawaii here for allowing us to come through and share our expertise and panel here on the border security. Um, I'm Marina Alvarez. This is Yarko Sakura, Jeff Evans, Colonel Kathy Swasina, retired, and Stacy Vaughn. I'll be your moderator for this afternoon. And this is our fourth FCA conference to share and get this information out there, to get as many interested partners, parties, and partnerships in getting this project started. Thank you. Yarko?
So, let me see here. Good afternoon. Glad to be here. Privileged to be here. Thank you, FCA, for having me. I couldn't be further away from home even if I tried. It's exactly 12-hour time difference to Finland, but I'm glad to be here and to speak about this just cause, as I think it is. The hint is in the title. We are trying, and we will do, the best digital border security testing living lab area in Finland. We have an internal mission that we will build the best digital border wall ever existed and make Russia pay for it. See how it goes. And I have to use all my best material in the beginning because there are 3 mitas on the back, so that's why we started with that. So as said, that's the vision. We wanted to create a place where everybody who are our allies, whether NATO, US, government, business, military, can and will come to test 24/7, 365. We have heard a lot of talks here today and the previous events that we have been, that there's a great need of speeding up the process. Everybody agrees on that. But the next obvious question is where? By who? So we are trying to do the place where SMEs, small to medium-sized companies with great ideas can come very easily, get validated. We have some really great support who are experts on the matter from Georgia Tech. Jeff will talk you through it in a couple of minutes. But we also have a great partner, namely the Russians, our beautiful friends from the East. They provide us everyday GPS interference, so we can use that. And they are also notoriously very bad navigators, whether they're in sea or air, because they seem to invade our airspace and sea areas a lot. So that we turn as our advantage. So we think that the borderland and the Russian border, we have 800-mile Russia border, we can use that as a best possible realistic place to test your capabilities and for your border security. But not only the land border, we all know that the border it's bigger as a concept. There's space, there's cyber, there's critical infrastructure that we want to protect, monitor, and secure. And there are things that already exist, like some of the things are seen here today. But I know, and I think most of the audience will agree, that there are some things that doesn't exist yet, and we have to invent, innovate, and put them on the market and in the front lines. We had a long history. Well, not that long, maybe a year or so ago. Me and my company and a couple of other my friends have been preaching Finnish technology companies and from Finland to US some time now. And during those trips, we met Jeff and some other good people from Georgia Tech. And they were kind enough to visit with some other friends, 10, 15 people from GTRI, a couple of people from US military background. They came to Finland last May, and we spent 10 days touring Finland, looking at the capabilities. We did companies like Nokia and a couple of other local ones. And we had a workshop for 3 days in this eastern city of Joensuu in Finland, where our lab will be kind of headquartered, more or less. And we created few areas that we concentrated first, and of course, it's an evolving system. The future there will be something more. But comms, for obvious reasons, will be there. And if and when we have hundreds and hundreds, if thousands sensors there, very quickly it becomes a computational and data problem. So we need to figure out how to use that and analyze that data from hundreds of sensors, thousands of sensors from different domains. So that becomes an issue. And how do we turn that into kind of a digestible information, so whoever is making decisions have 360 view of the situation on the border. And all of these things that we are talking about here today, even though I said I'm quite far away from home, they are transferable, and I know the area of Indo-Pac are facing the similar problems. Our friends from Australia here, they have the same problem, or same kind of challenges that we do. And then also the use of AI and other drone unmanned systems, whether it's air, water, or underwater, must be tested in the harshest of environment of Finland. And therefore, if it functions there, we are pretty sure that it will function anywhere. Minus 40 Fahrenheit in January is a really nice place to test your stuff if you really want to be sure that it functions in the battleground, for example. We have a lot of free land in Finland. We don't have people, but we have a lot of land and waters and rivers and space. 36,000 square kilometers. I have no idea what's that in acres, but it is a lot, millions, I would say. Free to use as your drone testing areas, of your comm testing areas, which are readily available, and they don't cost nothing for the companies to use it. I think that's a good asset. We share also, if you want to use your kinetics, we share our battleground or the testing ground with Finnish Defence Forces. And in this initiative, we are closely working together with Finnish Border Guard, so they are strategic members of this system. There are some other info, but I think we need to keep this kind of conversational. I don't want to take too much time from Jeff and the other ones. So how do we do most of the stuff? And what we are looking for is to any of our allies to come forward, whether you're a small business, military, government, contact us, and we will have most likely our first demo small testing event next February, January-February era. And for those who are interested after this, contact any of us to have more information, and I'm happy to share. We also have a white paper circulating for explaining our kind of intentions more. So if you're interested in that, I think Kathy has great insight on that aspect as well. But I think my time is now greatly used, and I turn into Jeff, and you can talk about the Georgia Tech's Research Institute's role in all of this. And after we go through all the panelists, we'll be happy to answer any of your questions. So, Jeff, over to you.
Are you gonna? Oh, yeah. Okay, can you hear me okay? All right, so yes, I'm Jeff Evans from Georgia Tech Research Institute. That's the applied research arm of Georgia Tech. We operate like a not-for-profit defense contractor. We have about 3,000 total people, and about 2,000 of those engineers and scientists. And if you name a technology or a service element of the DoD and the intel agencies, we probably have done work with them. And we also are the second largest UARC across the United States. So in that sense, I can operate quite a bit as a technical liaison, in this case, for the federal government. And I'm sorry for the typo that National Spectrum. Spectrum is actually a National Spectrum Consortium, if you're familiar with that, but it's all things around how to manage spectrum as you go forward, next G, communications, et cetera. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So, in supporting this effort, and it was a unique opportunity when YARCO visited campus that we had a chance to discuss, because we're already developing this capability that we call global technology experimentation. And without going through all the details, the bottom line is, how do you help the warfighter by conducting technology demonstrations, possibly a low barrier of entry, bringing in technologies of interest, possibly that fit gaps or shortfalls that perhaps we need to have answers for and understand quickly. So and then put that into an operational environment so we can quickly get feedback on that and have warfighters engaged as well. And we do the analysis, we do the setup, and then we do assessments. The fundamental requirement here is that it expedites R&D prototyping, and the so-called fail fast, if that's what you want to need to do. But it's not fail fast. It's really understand what parts are not functioning, or are they functioning better? How do you enhance it? And that's a role that we play here with this Global Technology Experimentation Program. And obviously it strengthens partnerships because we're working directly with the COCOMs and the service elements. And I'll show you an example how we've done that a couple of times. But ultimately it does collaboration and information sharing that goes back to the S&T field so that we can enhance this and improve it quicker. Oops. Again, I have a whole slide deck on things like this that we won't go through, but we should be able to utilize this to look at the problem solving, the capabilities gaps, as I've already referenced, inform future R&D investment. But more importantly here, we're trying to put this directly into the hands of the operational users. So when we put some of these events together, then it actually has the user, the assessor may actually be somebody from the 46th Test Squadron, for example, who are there with us. There's people from the Special Forces group that are there with us. And so we bring them in, we help understand how the technology works. The small company in this case, if that's who is engaged, they get a chance to get a real-time assessment of how it's performing, what are the issues, did it integrate with other technologies, and then even more important, is it integrating with international partners? And that's, I think, is a key example here. And then ultimately, how quickly can this inform the acquisition process? And so I just pulled out a couple of quick examples to show that this is real. One exercise we just completed was called Crimson Viper. It's in Thailand. That event has been going on for many years. But we bring about 15 to 18 technologies into one of the service units within the Thai government. They bring some technologies to the table. We create a scenario, and that's what some of those pictures are. We create a scenario of how these technologies might integrate between maritime to UAV to counter UAV, maybe some SATCOM and communications, and then bring it back to a common operational picture. So we bring all of those different technologies together. You may have heard of a program called Vulcan. That's a program that actually allows you to understand, and people can send their technologies in to as a scout card under Vulcan and then be selected for this type of an exercise. And our key themes in Crimson Viper were maritime domain, humanitarian assistance and disaster response, border security, and then counterinsurgencies and counter IEDs. Those were some of their key areas. And the motivation here is, can you take this now quickly and then go to a much larger operational exercise, such as a Cobra Gold? Next year, we're going to be doing Thailand as well as the Philippines and other locations, and that's going to allow us to then start to look towards how do you integrate this quickly into Balikatan, and some of you may have been involved in that. This is just a quick snapshot with all the background information, but we actually have done events here in Hawaii, one we call TIDES. Did that out at Coconut Island, working with the University of Hawaii Applied Research Lab. And in that particular case, we used the island to create, in a sense, a contested logistics environment to come into an island and possibly land technology, disaster relief, et cetera. And so we ran that as an exercise. We've done that about 3 years, I guess, called TIDES here in Hawaii. And just to round it all up, this is how we connected so closely with the YARCO and the whole team here, is that we said, here are some key requirements. This can be used to fulfill what better border security requirement than to say you can't manage with personnel 800 miles of border. So how do you use technology smarter, from satellite systems to UAVs to unattended ground sensors, a host of other technologies, tie all that together, and then provide a comprehensive picture of what's happening that becomes a pervasive ISR platform across 800 miles. That's the ultimate goal. But we want to take these technologies and put it into field experimentation in Finland to understand what's the conditions, because as Jarkko said, if it snows in Georgia, all they can do is say it may snow and everybody goes home. You go to Finland and they walk through 3 feet of snow just to go to school. So will an operational energy environment battery, will it function in minus 40 degrees? So we want to be able to test that across the range of both different terrain, a lot of trees, a lot of water, but but also extensive climate conditions. So we're creating right now through this workshop, we've already created some examples of what we want to do, and that's part of what our team is going to be talking about going forward. I think that, yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I think if Kathy can follow up with the U.S. DoD perspective or DOW perspective.
Sure. Just a little bit about my background. I have been 32 years in the military and training background, acquisitions, information technology. I was Deputy Chief of Acquisitions for the Army. I was Deputy CIO for the Army. So this talks to my heart. You know, getting things to the warfighter that work. You've heard the importance of the integration and the speed of acquisition. And this is an opportunity for industry partners to come together, do testing and experimentation, do your R&D in an environment like this, provided to you, along with, as I think Yarko might have said, free jamming by the neighbors, to see if your equipment and what you're doing can withstand the testing. So military testing and military specs are sometimes very harsh, and this is an opportunity to kind of go maybe sometimes in some ways above and beyond what the government has put into a proposal, into an RFP, to make sure that things work for the military and for our soldiers and airmen and Navy.
Kathy, are you saying that instead of being a controlled environment, that we have real life, real world scenarios available for the products to be challenged with?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that's what I'm saying. You know, our Finnish NATO members here and new NATO members have a neighbor that is flexing their muscles and testing borders and testing the box every day in many, many ways. So we need to be prepared on how we're going to answer the call when called. And we can only do that through tests and innovations. And this is an opportunity, I think, that is awesome.
All right. So am I next? I'm the action girl, Stacy Vaughn. I've been a FCA member and a small business owner for 20 years. And one of the things that I bring to the background is the procurement process that we are going to go through. And we're looking for partners, not just in the U.S. We're looking at other countries, NATO. We have also went to the FCA International in Rome to talk to other countries like Italy. We are in talks with some of the other countries. When we went to AUSA, we talked to seven different international pavilions and asking about what they're bringing to the table that could be supportive. So it's not just here in the U.S. Also, the other thing what's really important is it's not just one component. It's not just technology. It's not just sensors, and it's not just drones. And also, one of the things that Yarko has shared, we call it the land of 1,000,000 lakes, not 1,000 lakes. And so in Finland, it's low table water, so we're talking about boats in that perspective, sensors with those boats, because if you look at the borderline area, we're going to have to look at those unique environments in that aspect. The partnership also deals with academia, as you can see with Georgia Tech. We also are working with some of the academia in Finland. We are looking at some other entities in that aspect. And then we have our Australian brothers here also asking for support, as they have other extreme environments as like the desert. So this is a joint venture aspects of their border security. But the other thing is to also talk to other national government agencies so that they know how to find better contractors based on some of their requirements internally. As we had found in Rome, they have to deal with national archives as their city is being built, but then they have to deal with terrorism in that perspective. So those are areas that we can support in our procurement process. And then the other thing is we are doing workshop requirements, so not everybody gets to come to the table. So that makes sure they understand that there's rules of engagement in that aspect.
Okay. One of the questions usually is, okay, who's going to pay for all this fun stuff? So get your textbooks open, or there's a bunch of things we are doing. This is mostly funding from the European side. The whole vision is that the operation would be kind of a Rubik's Cube, if you will. But because of my mad computer skills, I wasn't able to do it in 3D. So you have to use your imagination to kind of fill in the other sides of the cube. But yeah, the core is in the middle. The Living Lab is there. It's already funded by the local and state government of Finland. But we are looking for other funding mechanisms. As you are well aware, Europe is rearming themselves finally, as a Finnish person would say. And those U.S. small, medium-sized, or bigger companies, some of them are probably not aware about the new business opportunities there are in the Nordics, for example. All those countries, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Iceland, Estonia, Poland, they're spending the next few years billions of euros to rearm themselves. So there's a great business opportunities because at the end of the day, people talk about that we need to do fast procurement, we need to do fast innovation. So how do you do that if you're not profitable as a company? So we need to have that aspect in the very early stages on, and we do have some public funding. We're still looking at additional pieces of our Rubik's Cube, and hopefully sometimes doing those little turns and twists, we recognize, okay, there's a perfect fit with Australian company, with US government, at Finnish grounds where we can test that and kind of aligns with everything beautiful. Finland also, one of the aspects of kind of being a poster boy for Finland here is that we're a dual-use country. Every man in Finland still have to do the conscript military. So the end user is there. Every man and very many women nowadays walking in the streets, they are the end user of any of your capabilities. So we can do a lot of testing on different environments, whether it's summer, winter, or day or night. So keep that in mind. But and then there is, as said, the next kind of actual event will be happening in January, February. There's a QR code for the Borderland Initiative's homepage, so please scan it and look it, and there will be information readily available as soon as we get it. But that's, I think, in very short, efficient Finnish way of saying that that's what we do. And I think we are ready for questions, don't you think? Or is there anything to add from our panelists?
I would also make them understand that it's national coalitions of other soldiers from other regions would also be involved. So it's not just U.S. and Finnish in that perspective.
Yeah, so we are looking at NATO and NATO partners to come and take advantage of this.
Yeah, and that would include, the lessons learned, because
Yeah.
we've all seen what's happened in the Ukraine and the scale of how UAVs and other platforms have been deployed far faster than if you'd have asked me 3 years ago, I would have said no way. And I've been doing technology programs and telecom for 38 years and never would have thought that. And then there's a lot of things that you don't understand what can happen very quickly. At one point, I was actually the red team tester for counter IEDs back in the early 2000s. That's because we didn't realize how quickly some things could be turned against us that were relatively benign in technologies. So that's another aspect of this, is not just the interoperability and the integration, but also the awareness of what's out there and how it could be used.
Yeah.
So not only are we looking for large partners, small partners, but we want what you think is the latest, greatest widget technology, thingamabobby, using those technical terms for, the yet to be created. Let's find it and give it a shot. If this is, I hate to use cloud technology reference, but fail hard, fail fast, and rebuild. I mean, if you think your widget can be the end all to be all to help in this environment. Come try it out. The worst you can say is, ooh, I got to tweak that, or ooh, so close, or damn, we did it. Any questions, anybody out there?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you can probably sell it yourself if you have an architecture that solves all the problems. Why not have, say, a Banshee 6G wireless ISAC system with a large language model, and at your endpoints you have small language models for your warfighters. You test that, make it happen, and then you're selling the technology. Just a thought.
No, I
Yeah.
mean, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say it was great input, but I also want you guys to understand this is a 24/7 test environment. It doesn't shut off at the end of the day at 4 o'clock, as we know.
Continuous.
And that's a big thing that we have to put in perspective. And I appreciate what you're saying, but some companies don't understand when they do an Army test, they think they're done at 5 o'clock. You know, the weather and environment and that was one of the reasons we picked the Finland aspect, is they're always having to test constantly. Like a couple years ago, their banking system was down for a week. Can you imagine the U.S. being banking system down for a day and people have an issue with their apps? So you have to put that into perspective in that way, too. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to add that that's a great scenario, great example.
Yeah.
And I've seen the Banshees and the language models that you could add. Yes, that would be one demonstration of it. We may want to talk to you and put that together as a scenario. But I think there are a number of other components to that would need to be integrated to achieve different sets of requirements. And that could be used in multiple aspects, but we would just need to talk through it.
There's a lot of people developing large language models that act as network security blue teams. It's already automated, and then the endpoints, everything's managed. So it's more like an interpreter. I'm not selling anything. I just want everyone to upscale because.
No, that's a great point.
Yeah, that's all.
But
And that's being better informed every day,
Yeah.
obviously. So the whole AI component, of which we always called it different things, but that's what they're calling the summary now, and the language models is a key part.
Hi, I just had a question about data sharing. So when you guys are collaborating and then doing things for real with live data,
Yeah.
is there opportunities to get some of that data to do some testing in a digital environment with AI synthetic?
I'm pretty sure
Data.
that will be.
Yes,
Will be,
there
yes.
will be, yeah.
Okay, so I will give you my card. Like,
Yes.
Thank you.
Please do.
Just a quick question coming from the southern side of the hemisphere. What about logistics and trade controls? How do you tackle that?
In terms of.
Trade controls in regards to foreign countries bringing their technology that could be coming under their own certain trade controls, but also US entities
Yeah.
that are wanting to bring
That-
ITAR
sure.
controlled products.
Yeah.
There are some restrictions, of course, but now it's easier for let's say, with the USA, we signed the DCA agreement. There will be 15 military bases in Finland all across, so some of the stuff might be coming from those places, for example. And we have ways and means to do most of the stuff that we are looking at this stage, at least. But of course, there are some issues, some technologies that are not that easy to transfer. So.
Yeah, there's also a couple of open ITARs that we're looking at with other big firms. IBM has one that they shared with us. So there's some other ITARs, open ITARs that we have been looking at.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And to add to that, we've ran into that in Thailand, of course, for sure. Thailand and the Philippines. Some of the technologies had to be used and run with U.S. personnel. And so there's a whole host of questions and hoops that you have to jump through to make sure that happens. And that's why we're also working closely with some of the now I'm going to draw a blank on the name, but it's foreign comparative testing, but also the foreign, I'm drawing a blank on the last name of it, but basically like FMS.
Yvonne Butler, Department of Defence Australia. Thank you very much for a great conversation. I'm interested in a couple of aspects here. So one is about dual use and social licence, and I appreciate the Finnish position, and it's a great exemplar. In other countries where there isn't that compulsory service, getting social licence from the community can be actually pretty tricky. And linked to that then is being enabled to bring industry and the community into these quite sensitive discussions, which can actually be quite terrifying. So how do we get that balance right to build and deliver the effect that we have to?
Well, I was gonna say one of the examples that we saw in the city of Youngsville, they do a city, what we would call mass casualty, an open area, and it could be kind of a tag on in that aspect. It's more self-awareness that we saw in Finland in a couple of the cities where it's not what do you mean they're attacking? It's part of their daily exercise.
Right.
And I think it's one of those you have to share with other nations. I can say working overseas, that was always a constant, especially in Europe. It's not oh crap, it's happening. It's a daily process that we have to start teaching more often.
We call it comprehensive security thinking, that most of the public sector actors, they do it, I would say, weekly, if not even daily. So the first responders, they communicate very closely with the local communities, schools. For example, my university, we do every now and then these kind of exercises that how do we manage if there's no power? We must keep the education ongoing even in the case of no electricity, which is not an easy thing to do in modern university nowadays. And actually, funny that happened. Our beautiful friends from the East, Russians, hacked our university network, and we were without any computer access for 6 weeks. 8,000 students, 650 faculty, but we were able to do because of the fact that we trained before. And you know, as a former football coach, you play as you train. Right. So we need to do that, and we do a lot of collaboration with the first responders, hospitals, even the food supply chain is already always in those practices. And we come together. Sometimes we don't have a solution for some of the problems, but at least there's a dialogue, because without that, there's no chance. So we are being prepared and will be prepared, because we don't have the luxury of being ignorant. My home is less than 100 kilometers away from Russian border, so I'm within their reach. So for me, it's not a talk. It's we have to do that.
It's motivating.
And if I could add one more example of something that's happening today, we've done a lot of work over the years in terms of how do you migrate to the next generation first responder technologies and integrate that with 5G or next year, whatever network you want to call it. The same thing is happening in Europe. So we're working with the Critical Communications Association because Europe is migrating to a enhanced digital standard for first responders. That is a dual use requirement that can be used across the DoD as well. And so we've actually got one member of our team from Texas A&M that's coordinating with us. He's over in Sweden right now, working with their version of MSB and the Critical Communications Association to help create a demonstration event for next generation standards.
Thank you.
Also, one addition is to we of course tend to talk nowadays a lot about critical infrastructure, border security in the terms of war, but most of those sensors that are now providing us information, they are used for peaceful purposes, like scanning our forests, making sure that the forest fires are detected as early as we can, seeing if there's new diseases because the climate change, some of the Arctic woods are suffering. So we can have all that data coming from the sensors. So it's not all DoD stuff that we do with the borderlands. There's some other aspects of it.
Thank you. Great talk. Most of you.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. Paul Drossi, Pantheon Bridge. So, and maybe not everybody here knows this already, because again, you have some guilty knowledge as well, that things that you may be taking for granted. But the DoD, the U.S. DoD, is already working with the Finns on exercises as well. So it's not a brand new concept. It's a concept of more of some technology and small and medium business participation in this, right?
Yeah.
I look at it as pragmatic survivability. Right. Question I have, the thing that I don't know is who's controlling or running the exercises writ large? Right? Is it piecemeal? Is it the MOD specifically? Is it a joint effort? Is there a white cell, so to speak?
Currently, it's a joint effort. If it's anything to do with the national security, the Finnish border guard is on control of those things. But if there's a kind of side project, something to be decided together with the partners. And there are some questions, to be very honest, that we haven't even thought about. We don't even know we don't know. So there will be some questions about governance of the whole operations and who owns the data at the end of every measurements, all those things at that point. But for any kind of a defense or security related issues, it's the Finnish border guard.
Thank you. And as we know, we discuss it's not the technology, it's not the want or the will, it's oftentimes policy.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my little understanding of the matter, is that the technologies are there and the solutions are there. It's usually the question of policies that really kind of step in the way in most cases, and we try to eradicate most of those as we can.
And one last question, I think you alluded it to earlier, was when you're talking about all domains sensing, it's truly all domain, right? So you're talking high altitude,
Yes.
subsea.
Yeah, it must be because our friends in the east, they do multi-domain, so we can't
absolutely.
we can't just rely on the landmass. As I said, the biggest, most beautiful digital wall and make Russia pay for it. That's the model that we're doing.
Absolutely, yeah. Because one of the firms I do represent runs the Apex.
Right.
You're familiar with the Apex exercise and Pentex, it used to be. So yeah, we'll definitely talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll go to the microphone.
Okay.
So Mike McLaughlin from Veridata. Quick question for you. So we talk about the sensor data that's coming across specifically in the borderlands, and you're not advertising, but advocating for companies to come forward with new technologies to be able to leverage that data in such a way that's going to advance all of our interests on the borderlands. How are you making those sensors, that data, known to those companies that are coming in to develop technologies? Is there a central marketplace that exists for that data where you're providing those as opportunities for companies to come utilize that data, develop AI models that can advance Finland's and advance our mutual interests?
To some extent, there are some, but I think this will emerge while we start doing this, because we start small ones, but they're 24/7, and as the whole system goes forward, I'm pretty sure that is one of the businesses that can come up with development of this initiative. But any takes on this, Jeff?
Well, so there was one I referenced, Vulcan, earlier, for example. That's a software tool originally developed under Special Forces, but you put out a call and you ask for capabilities in specific areas, and then companies respond. Then you take that and if you were to run that in a field experimentation exercise, then there's an assessment report that comes back out. And the J85 group here in Indo-Pacific, or whoever that might be in the various combatant commands or other groups, they would then have that information. And quite honestly, at that point, we have to follow their lead in terms of getting the information back out. We may often not be allowed to do that. But
who owns the data?
Well, the companies participating actually own their own data. And then the overall report is generally a report that's releasable. Our Crimson Vipers are that way in Thailand, for example. I'm sure it would be dependent upon the exercise, because some data would be a little more restricted than others.
We'll talk. I like this.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
I think we're done.
Last call for questions, concerns. Observations?
Can we do an alibi?
Yeah, alibis?
Alibi is
All saved rounds, please
yeah.
come forward.
I just would like to let you guys know that we have been doing this so long, and we went from, hey, you get 15 minutes, you get to an hour. So we're kind of in that, do we get to fill up all that hour or not that hour, right? So I wanted to put that alibi out.
And the other thing is, we don't know what we don't know, and that's
Yes.
part of this conversation. Is we have a general idea of what we want to wrap around our arms around, but somebody out there has something we never even thought of, never even heard about, and that's part of this conversation. Is people don't understand unless you've been like in Western Australia, Death Valley, or, you know, in the middle of a blizzard that lasts for 6 days and then disappears, that these are the conditions we're trying to address and determine. And Finland is not saturated with population, let's say. You know, so a lot of these areas that we're looking at doing these testings have, what, 10 people per kilometer living in them? No. Okay. 5 people per kilometer.
Yeah.
Okay. Half a person per, 100 square kilometers,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, okay, if something happens, in above the Arctic Ring where the population is more, 4-footed than 2-foot, how do you know about it and how do you address it? And how do you get any kind of defensive response or investigation going when, cell signal may not work? How do you get the messages from the frozen north down to, the halfway frozen, populous area? And what do you do with it? These are all high-level conceptual things that need to be addressed not only in the extreme Arctic areas, but hopefully the future vision is how do we deal with that same type of environment in Death Valley or Western Australia or the opposite of the frozen tundra? Just a parting thought for you.
Well, I want to say, I've been kind of on both sides of the fence. I've been, acquisitions, I've been military. I've written those requirements. I've looked at missions in theater and how we're going to support them. And I've done training and training exercises and those kinds of things. And I've been on the other side of the fence now. So how do you respond to those? Military costs to industry for development, for design cycles, for testing. These are expensive to industry, and it's kind of sunk costs. So not every industry can put together an R&D department or whatnot to test what they want to do. This is an opportunity that we want to help bring to industry. I mean, you've heard the general officers and the keynotes in the past couple of days talking about how to speed up acquisition, how to speed up getting things into the warfighter's hands. The best way to do that is to test the interoperability and those innovation ideas to the extreme power that you can, so that we can get it into the procurement system and get it bought by the agencies that need it most.
Yeah, and I did want to make sure that we emphasize that we talked about going through combatant commands and then integrating that, but there's a lot of programs out there. We're doing a lot of work around operational energy. Mm-hmm. So if you were to take an operational energy program, it's within a specific OUSD element, but this might be an opportunity to take that and take it for 3 days, 4 days, and running in those types of environments. So it's not necessarily having to be, with the full command element that's out there. It could just be other types of tests. And that's incredibly important because having done this for many, many years, I can tell you stories that people might think are conspiracies, but they never were. And that was related to things like accidentally knocking NPR off the air right during the book report on the Shadow Factory, the story of the NSA. So that was, things like that can happen, but we know exactly now why it happened. And that's, again, part of why you do this is because you go out and you experiment and you realize that this unattended ground sensor is not going to work in the environment with a lot of dense aspen trees. It's just not going to get through. So where do you have to put them? How do you deploy it? Those are all tactical elements that you learn when you actually put these exercises out there.
And oh, please.
Curious, just considering, like, I haven't spent years doing that. I'm into digital transformation. So that means like MIT, Dartmouth, you look at a problem, you see what all the points are, and then you issue one solution. So if you have a private cell network, 6G, everything under it is a sensor. And you can capture that. And then if you have like a LLM model that is just focused on offensive network security, you solve one more problem. And if you can sell that as, here's our test system,
Right.
the money's not going to be a problem.
Right.
So that's all I was trying to suggest and
No, that's great.
ask as
Great
to.
suggestion.
Great suggestion. I've noted it.
But yeah, any more? As said, I'm highly appreciative for FCA to having us. It was really a pleasure to come here because in Finland it was snowing already, so I'm probably staying here. I seek for climate asylum here, so let's see it's how that goes. And remember, all business is always done between people, and we need people to create this great initiative that we and me personally highly believe in. We come from the land of Santa Claus, so I'm ready to Santa Claus this. Try to be nice. It's not easy here with all this my choice and stuff, but let's make it together, and please join us. We'll make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.